Welcome to Lanterns Live, the only live stream channel on YouTube dedicated solely to the Green Lantern universe. I'm your host, Ralph, and today is a fun one. We have the writer of Green Lantern, the current run of Green Lantern. He's also the co-writer of Green Lantern Corps. Both books I happen to enjoy. If you follow this show, you know that. And I'm very, very excited to welcome in Jeremy Adams.
Woo!
Jeremy,
hey, glad
how
to
you
be
doing?
here.
Yeah, dude, I'm so excited. We'll talk about your run on Green Lantern, but there's a lot more I want to chat about before we get to that.
Sure.
But
Should
first,
should I repost it? Should I get on to X or something and say hold on, let me see if we can get more people in here.
I don't even know like if people follow me on X. So when I created Lanterns Live, I was literally sitting on my couch, and I do live streams for like Star Wars and Invincible. And I was sitting on my couch, and the name Lanterns Live popped into my head. So the first thing I did was check the URL, check the socials,
yeah,
and it was available everywhere. And so like by 2 days later, I had a show on the internet. Twitter was the one place where Lanterns Live wasn't available, and I was like, I'm fine. But like I'm everywhere else. Anywhere you want to post that.
I see, but you're Lantern Cast on Twitter, right?
No, that's Chad and Mark's show.
My bad.
So if you look right here under my name, let's see if I can point to it. There at Casino Skunk, that's like my production company, and I posted this live stream there. So if you want to find that. Long story about Casino Skunk, not terribly interesting. It is literally I was at Harrah's with my friend, 3 a.m. on the boardwalk, and we saw a skunk, and it was a real happy skunk until I yelled at it.
Oh no.
After a few drinks, I just said, "Hey, skunk," and it turned, hissed at us, and then ran away. And so it's just one of those things that stuck. It happened around the time that I created a AIM profile, and it's just been my handle ever since. We're talking like 1998 or something, like 97.
Yeah, no, that's where Space Kicker comes from. It's like, what is this email thing? Yeah.
Just did it come like? Did you have? Did it? Was there?
Yeah, I come from like a cowboy town where the cowboys were kind of the gang, like they were the bullies, and I was kind of mercilessly bullied. But they have a name for cowboys, like blank kickers, right? And I was really into martial arts and sci-fi, and so I thought Space Kicker sounds kind of cool, and that was kind of my right before college. I think it was like my first email address, and so I just kind of stuck with it. So
it's easy when you have kind of a weird name to like. Anytime a new social comes up, you're like, I could probably grab that.
Oh, I stake horse everything. I stake horse on things that I'm like, oh wait, is that a really bad thing? Like I'm probably on like terrible sites just because I was like, there's a new social, I better get it before somebody else.
Right.
So funny.
So this is a question I ask all of my guests the first time they come on.
Okay.
And it's your secret origins with the character Green Lantern. When's the first time you sort of became aware of the character Green Lantern?
I mean, it's beyond my, before I remember. Like it had to be Super Friends-ish, because I remember being at least 4 my parents were divorced when I was 5, so I was like 6-ish, and I remember taking like a shamrock and like wrapping around my finger in the yard and like, I'm Green Lantern, like and that's how young I remember that stuff. But I also have a weird, my father was an artist and drew probably a total of 12 books for like DC Comics.
Okay.
And so I always had comic books around. I was always very aware of them, but the psychological thing is like, oh, my parents were divorced when I was like 5. I didn't see him very much. So obviously I liked what my dad liked, and, it became my own thing. But yeah, very early, very, very early on.
Right. We have a live stream going. Anybody wants to ask questions, go ahead and shoot them over. Sure. I'll probably get to those towards the end of the episode. I mean, this channel now does super chat. So if you want to do one of those. I'll stop dead in my tracks and
I don't know what
ask that question.
Okay.
People can like give
Pay you
donations.
Yeah,
and it's like a highlighted, it's
pay
like
the
a highlighted
man.
thing.
I'll answer whatever, almost whatever.
I'll tell you this. So Vactor's in here, and he's a subscriber to this channel. Not just a subscriber, but one of you can join the special team. He just wanted to say that Jeremy has been killing it on the main GL book. I've been loving it. Also, you've been killing it on Green Lantern Corps. Not to give Vactor shit or anything, but Green Lantern Corps is great too.
Yeah,
and Vactor's my co-host on the Green Lantern Corps episodes.
Oh, okay, cool. Nice to meet you.
And then here's something. Jeremy Kelly is also one of the paying subscribers. He's getting back into the Green Lantern world. Where should I start? I have a very specific response to this, but you can go ahead.
I think, well, if you're getting the universe, that's a little more. I would say like for me, I really like New Frontier in terms of just an introduction to Green Lantern a little bit. But what really hooked me in Green Lantern was Jeff Johns and Pete Tomasi, the 1-2 punch of Green Lantern and Green Lantern Corps. And those were really fun. But then it's hard because you're that is so predicated on what happened to Hal in terms of Parallax and stuff. So you have to go back even further. I don't know.
I might have some questions. I might have some Parallax questions. Reddit's kind of been going nuts. Maybe I'll talk about it later. Yeah. Reddit's been kind of going nuts because the Green Lantern 26 came out yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know
Parallax
if you heard anything.
Dead, Jess says. Yeah.
Well,
we can talk about it now. I mean, the funny thing is, it's with characters, you don't know what they know and what they're talking about. I think the last time, DC continuity is such a weird thing. Mm-hmm. And also Green Lantern continuity within DC continuity is really weird. Because it's even though they've shifted universes or restarted them, Green Lantern's kind of stayed the same.
Yeah, that New 52 run basically it was business as usual for Green Lantern.
That tells you how popular it was, especially under Jeff's pin.
Yeah.
But the last time I think in continuity, aside from Dan Jurgens reintroducing Parallax last year, I think, was Superman fighting Parallax, and then capturing him potentially in a ring, but then Hal Jordan immediately was he's not there, and then Hector Hammond does a bunch of stuff, so you're we don't know where he is, right, within the continuity of the universe. So I think Jess and even Sinestro to a degree, because Sinestro was split from Parallax, I think they think he's removed from the universe. So in my mind, she's saying he's dead, he's gone.
Yeah, but
again, she can be wrong. There can be multiple things, because then Dan Jurgens reintroduced Parallax into the universe. So that's a whole other thing.
Right. So I'm going to answer Jeremy's question. He's getting back into the Green Lantern world. Where should he start? And I think...
Tell me.
Here's the thing. Either watch the movie or watch First Flight.
Wow.
Or better yet, I would say, you know what? Watch New Frontier. Because just so you get the Hal Jordan origin story.
Yeah.
But then jump into Green Lantern, the animated series, because I think it's the best Green Lantern story outside of the comics. And you were a part of that. And
I was part of that, but I can't, Giancarlo Volpe and Jim Krieg did that show. Ernie Altbacker was part of that show. That was my first credit on television. And I would walk into the little Jim's office, and he would have pictures of Kilowog, Razor, Hal, and above them he would have Captain Kirk and Bones and Spock. And he's such a Star Trek nerd that they put together, and Bruce Timm was he's an executive producer on that thing. And when I came in and they gave me an episode, and I was just so thrilled. I'm like, okay, what if it's this? And and I probably knew more than a lot of them did, because I was reading a lot of the Green Lantern comics at the time. But what was funny, just quick story, was they said, okay, great. And I write the script. Giancarlo's like, oh, could we get like a space worm or something? And I was like, space worm? And I'm just like learning about writing. Like Jim's like, just shut up, just do it. You know, if he wants Hal Jordan to have a talking mustache, you do that Hal Jordan with a talking mustache. I'm like, all right, whatever. And so I wrote a space worm in, and then and then they liked it. And then they were like, oh, they gave me another episode, and they're like, it could really use some space sharks. I'm like, what is he watching nature documentaries? Like, what's happening right now? And I was like, okay. And I wrote some space sharks. And what was funny is when it came out, I was like, he was right. That was interesting. He added a little something to those moments, which was amazing. The second thing was I got to go to the record session for the first one. And I remember Jim telling me, because I hadn't met Bruce Timm yet, even though we had gone on to work with each other. I hadn't met him. And Jim was like, you say nothing. I don't care what happens in that record session. You say nothing. Right. You are just a fly on the wall. You are not there to say anything, blah, blah, blah. And I'm sitting in the front watching the record, and I can hear Jim and Bruce behind me. And at one point, Bruce is like, I don't understand this line. What did the writer mean by this line? And Jim was like, I don't know. And they're like, that's so weird. I wish I understood what he's meant. And I'm just sitting there like sweating bullets. Like, is this a test? Is this a weird test? And I'm like, and I shut up the entire time. I said nothing. So, but yeah, it's an exceptional series. It really is an exceptional series. And it's one of those people say, let's have a sequel. And I'm like, nah, don't, because every time they do a sequel, a lot of times like Arrested Development or whatever, you're like, yeah, it's fine.
It's been like what, 12 years or something.
Yeah.
I think where it's at is great. The two episodes you wrote are Blue Hope and Scarred.
Yeah.
Both very, very integral to like the lore of Aya.
Yeah.
The character Aya. The Manhunters in Blue Hope are the first ones to detect that she's actually like radiating emotion. Right. Like that's a huge deal because up until that point we're like, she's an AI robot.
Yeah.
Like she's not a living being, but the fact that she's radiating the emotion of love was nuts. And then in Scarred, not only is that the episode with the Book of Black Hand, which I don't know if you wrote that into the script or not, but it also is the one that talks about Scar, the Guardian, pulling out a sliver of the living creature Ion, which lives within the power battery, to sort of fuel Aya and her AI. So she's basically a living creature. So we're not weirded out by the fact that Razor loves a robot. But it's one of the, those are two really, really big episodes as far as Aya is concerned, and Razor as well. Razor comes so close to basically he does everything in Blue Hope but say I love you to Aya. Like they're about to do something to Aya, and Razor goes basically just insane, super powered, full of rage on Manhunters, and destroys two of them, I think two of them, to rescue Aya. And it's pretty clear what his intentions are.
Well, they were so good about organizing that. I mean, when I got Green Lantern, immediately I was like, well, I got to bring these guys into main continuity. And, I was talking to Jim about it, and I was like, this may be the only chance, somebody connected to the show in even a tangential way, like a small way. It's like, I might as well bring him in,
Yeah. And how was that? What did you, I want to talk about your Green Lantern run because it's been great. It's been going for, I think 2 years now, coming up on
something
3.
like that. Yeah.
Was that a job you were seeking out?
No, not at all. I had got, I was doing the Flash, and I was really enjoying the Flash run with Wally and the kids. And it was just a zany Doctor Who book. And then, a few days before Christmas, I get a call and they said, hey, your sales are fine. But we want to go in a new tonal direction. And I was distraught. I was like, what are you talking about? I was like, what about the kids? That was my first thought. What about the kids? Because I've become so attached to the characters. And
Right.
that was really my first continuing run of comics. So it felt like a slight, I guess. I felt bad, like I did something wrong or whatever. Even though
Mhm.
in the same breath he goes, but what I'd love to do is we'd love to do a Hal Jordan Green Lantern book with you. And I was just like, whatever. I don't, I was mad. I was still sad, and I was just like, I don't know, maybe I'll think about it, like a little. And so we were driving up to my in-laws, and I called Jeff Johns, and I was
Okay.
like, Jeff, they took me off the Flash. And Jeff was like, what do you mean they took you off the Flash? Go, yeah, they want me to do Green Lantern. And he just goes, wait, that's amazing. Like he was so thrilled. And if you ever meet Jeff, he's such a
I
cheerleader, and he's so kind. And he was like, you're going to kill it. This is going to be amazing. And I was like, well, if Jeff Johns think I can do it, then I guess I can do it. And so I kind of, he kind of coached me into like, no, this is what you should be doing next.
yeah.
And so I got really pumped about it, and then I was off to the races. And I knew, the first arc, I knew kind of the United Planet stuff and the quarantine stuff. And
What was that like picking up off of like
Jeff
Jeff?
Thorne's,
Yeah, Jeff Thorne's book. Like,
it's
did you feel cornered at all?
no, no. In fact, I had read Jeff Thorne's run. I know people have like varying opinions about it, but I had read
Right.
it as kind of like straight through, and I thought he was doing this really cool, like high-minded sci-fi thing, like Dune a little bit.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
and I have quibbles with everything just because I'm a creator, but he left so many dangling threads, I thought, that I was like, oh, this is great. This will give me something, because there was the source, a lantern.
Mhm.
Even at the end in the last issue, there was like, I think it was Chip turned from green to blue. And I was like, and there were pieces of that in my head. I was like, oh, maybe some of them can change. And well, Philip over here, my bud Philip Kennedy Johnson, is doing this stuff with the United Planets, and like he has, Tharos and some stuff that are they're kind of not good. And
Yeah.
a lot of times I like to play in the anti-authority world. So I was kind of
Right.
like, oh, this is interesting. And what if, and I had a pitch even before that of Green Lantern, of what if Green Lantern was stuck on Earth, because I feel like the world thought 2814 is a problem area. And I knew
Yeah.
that, it's like, well, that's why they have so many Earth Lanterns, because there's so many issues. And that
Right.
kind of like, the ideas started, trickling out then. And I knew that Theros, and United Planets and the Source Lanterns, and I knew about the United Planets Lanterns. I knew I wanted to tie in some Millennium stuff. Originally, I had Tom Kalamaku and the Floronic Man, and they wouldn't let me use Floronic Man after I turned in the script. I'm like, you guys, you're killing my dream. And I knew that Kyle. I knew Kyle would be the one that was able to go through the Source Lantern, and he was going to be mentally messed up because of all the emotions and stuff. And I knew all
Right.
that stuff going in, so that as it came out, I think the hard thing for writing comics is making sure the pacing's correct. And
Right.
it's hard because you want it to build up to something, but also you want it to build up and mean something. And sometimes I get it right, and sometimes I get it wrong. It's I'm still fairly new at writing comics,
Yeah.
um, so I'm having a lot of fun. But I really wanted to start small with Hal, and then Hal, the the
But
the guy with no money, pursuing his girlfriend again. And
right. What's great though is that much like what Jeff Johns did with Rebirth, he could have done a hard reset and brought
right,
back Hal and just kind of disregarded
right,
Guy and Kyle and everybody else.
right.
You did something similar where you are juggling. You didn't get rid of anybody.
Yeah, I
Like you
don't.
have.
I'm a nerd, man. It's funny. My editor said, like, you could just write a balloon that everything went back to normal. I was like, I can't do that. Like
Right.
I have to explain, and I am a nerd, and
But
yeah, I can't do that. I can't do that. I dig into continuity, and I try my best to try to suss it out. The continuity mythology of Green Lantern's really big, and it's really thick. And so
yeah.
sometimes when I get it wrong, I try to pivot and make it right, but
well, I'll tell you this, like I wasn't a fan of Thorne's run on Green Lantern. It was one of those things where it wasn't my thing.
Yeah, I didn't.
Which is fine. Yeah. There's things that are my thing. There's things that aren't. Whatever.
Yeah.
Never really gravitated towards Kelly.
Right.
The Team Lantern was never a thing for me. It was like, I don't know. I'm a grouchy old man reading comic books. I should have probably aged out of them maybe at least 10 years ago. And so here's this character, and I'm like, oh, I guess he's bringing in her too. And I'm like, oh boy. And then Ellie Rose and stuff. And I had just finished reading War Journal like last month.
Yeah.
So I was catching up on that. And it was characters that I really wasn't like, when I got to those pages, I was like, okay, well, let me just get back to Kyle, who's I don't know if you know my quarter scale Kyle statue. My wife got me that. It's amazing. I just stare at it every night when I go to bed. But I knew enough about the characters.
Sure.
And I found myself really enjoying what you're doing with what hand you were dealt with. And Kelly, with the fractured spectrum and sort of all the emotions just getting drained out of the universe, it's really cool to have someone like Kelly who's created basically a Green Lantern ring outside of the Guardians sort of system.
Yeah, sort of. I mean, her origin is so weird because Bendis wrote it where there's an alien crash lands with a lantern glove near her house.
Yeah.
And she's kind of like, oh, I've been chosen. And like, it's really strange.
Right.
And it's like, there's no real explanation for it. And then suddenly along the way, it's kind of like she kind of hacked it, maybe. Yeah. And then in Thorne's run, she goes into a coma. So I pick up on her going into the coma and them finding some knowledge. And then obviously now Morgan and I have played with that a little more. There's a door. And even with Philip's run, Philip created this construct, like sentient construct, which is somewhat problematic.
It's like I've had discussions with Will Smith over at Green Lantern's podcast about this very thing. And just like, I really still don't know if I can accept this construct that doesn't tie to his willpower. It's just kind of existing.
Yeah. And so that it's an interesting concept. And if Philip wouldn't have done it, I swear I was right on the cusp of doing something similar.
Oh, really?
But what's great for me is I learned this in the Flash. Like you had Kid Flash, the other Wallace West, who I started calling Ace West. He was a character I didn't really understand, and I couldn't really. I was like, I don't know, like why should we care? But then that was an opportunity to go, well, what could you do to write him so that you would enjoy him? And then he became kind of the straight man to Wally when Wally like convinces them to ditch school, and they go on this adventure, and it's great. And so with Ellie and Kelly, it was kind of like, oh, this is interesting. And I don't want it just to be there's these two kid lanterns. It's more about there's so much we don't know about Kelly's glove and Kelly that we're starting to understand or starting to figure out something's not right. And so that just gave me an opportunity to play with those characters a little more and flesh them out and hopefully make them a little more interesting so that, oh, okay, there is a little more to this than just giving a kid a glove and now they're awesome at it or whatever,
Yeah. So we just read Green Lantern 26, which had like one page with Kelly and Simon.
Yeah.
Because I don't know where you're at in your story. I don't know what your deadline.
That.
Yeah. So that's the thing. I'm afraid of saying something that'll.
No.
You'll spoil us on.
No, I won't spoil it because I won't spoil it.
It was like for me. That one page really economic, really it really like
Kelly's not here right now.
Yeah. It was a really nice sort of shorthand page that didn't interrupt the main story.
Right.
Like it wasn't like a crazy sidetrack. I know that you right when you started Green Lantern had to get you had to be part of a DC crossover. Yeah. And you have to deal with a couple of different ones. There was an issue, and I should have looked it up before I went. But it was the issue with there was an issue you did with like Amazo and
Yes.
Alan Scott,
Yeah.
and there was a
Where she
Sorrow
becomes,
Lantern.
yeah.
There's like 5 or 6 stories,
Yeah.
and your sort of ability to sort of keep all of those stories so tight and be able to have a nice arc on like 2 pages.
Oh,
Like I
thanks.
think it's really, really helpful. And also, but I wanted to know, like, when you hear that you have to do these crossovers, like how much does it get in the way? Like, is it just like, man, I got this Green Lantern thing, I got ideas, and now I have to deal with like
I
night
mean,
terrors.
I think I can see the pessimism of that like coming in, but you got to understand, I've been wanting to write comics my whole life. So like, I'm the Mikey likes it of like, they're like, hey, you want to do this? You know? And I'm like, oh yeah, heck yeah. And with Night Terrors, though it was inconvenient that it came after issue 2, they said, Paul, my editor, was like, well, you can write it or somebody else can write it. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to let anybody else write it, right. You know? And it was like, these are the constraints. And I was kind of like, wait, so this thing preys on the fear of Hal Jordan? I was like, that doesn't make sense. Like, I was like, he's not afraid of nothing, you know? And then that was my hook, right? It was like that first issue is this alien thing trying to figure out his fear. And then by the beginning of the second issue, I was like, are they going to let me do this? Where he's just like, yeah, you came to the wrong planet and the wrong dude. And it's just 22 pages of Hal Jordan kicking this thing's butt, right? Like, and I was just like, oh, that's hilarious. And I was really surprised they didn't stop me. And I was like, that's great. With the Absolute Power, I was on a phone call with Mark Waid and Paul, my editor. And the thing that got me excited, I said originally, I was like, can Hal Jordan steal the bat plane? You know? And I was like, because that'll be awesome, you know? And Mark was like, oh, that's great. And I was like, great. And then the amazo of it was like having this conversation with Alan Scott specifically, because my friend Tim had just done an Alan Scott book. And I kept thinking about Alan Scott and kind of this conversation about what is life and what is real. And then, like, I don't know if they killed the other Amazos or what. I was just like, can I keep him? Can he be my Heimdall? Like, can Jade Stone be protecting this thing? They're like, yeah, I guess. And I'm like, great, you know. So I'm trying to add toys to the toy box as much as I can.
That moment, there was the Hal Jordan taking the Batwing, the Batplane.
Yeah,
was one of my favorite moments in your entire run because. Like, Batman has planes, we know that.
Right.
Who test pilots them for Batman?
Right.
And so it's like perfect.
Yeah.
Batman knows a test pilot. Like it was like, I can't believe like it's like Jeff Johns didn't come up with something.
Right.
It was so brilliant. But then what's great about it is that Hal Jordan's like crashed a ton of these planes because they're always malfunctioning.
Yeah.
Which is fine when you're a Green Lantern.
Yeah,
but totally. Hal didn't have his ring or power. And so now it's like this thing where it's like the tension was perfect. Like, I know you're not going to kill Hal Jordan, but at the same time, it's like, it sounds like these things always explode and he's the best guy to fly it, but also he should probably have his ring as a backup, which he didn't. And it just that whole thing, I was like, it's such a simple thing, and it was something that took place over probably like 4 or 5 pages.
Yeah,
and I was just like, amazing.
It was so fun.
That's amazing.
I think Fernando drew those, right? Like Fernando Pasterin, and he's so detailed and great. And I just like I have so much fun. So like to answer your question, it's like, you know, even like DCKO, they asked me if Aquaman wanted to cross over. I was like, yeah, heck yeah, because at the end of the day, I would rather be able to. I think it's an opportunity to get other people to read the book, right? Like people to go, hey, I'm reading this crossover, but this other story that's happening sounds kind of neat. Or like, oh, that's kind of interesting, this Amazo thing and Jadestone. And oh, this is and I always use it as an opportunity to kind of advance my own other internal stories that I have going on a lot of times.
I don't think it disrupted the flow of the series at all.
I hope not. Yeah, it's hard. It's really hard because you're getting a 22-page book in the case of Green Lantern every month, and that's hard. Green Lantern Corps is 20. I mean, I don't know. So like my last issue on Green Lantern Corps is number 9, and then Morgan takes over. But that was always kind of the plan. We were going to do that earlier, but we think this is the best thing to do it right after this little event. But it's been fun working with him, and I'm sure he'll take all the moving pieces that he wants and does it. But it's been fun. I love it. I love doing all of it.
Yeah. The issues where Hal's without his ring and he's in Waller's, like he's like grabbing different weapons in the warehouse.
Yeah.
Those the two issues. I feel clearly the art got swapped for the covers.
Yeah, totally. Oh, it happens all the. If you want to make me mad, it's cover art and FOC spoilers. You know, it drives me absolutely crazy. I beg them to let me do, like, can we just do Silver Age covers every month that are like kind of peculiar with words and whatever. But that happened to me on Flash, where they literally, the whole punchline was that Wally was going to the Heroes in Crisis thing to Sanctuary, and they put it on the issue beforehand. And I was like, and there's a little bit of trying to fight City Hall, and you can't, you know, and you try your best, but you know, I've given up a little bit of that. I've given up a lot of the, well, you're not listening to me, so you know, why do I keep hitting my head against things?
So speaking of things that were kind of wrong, and this is something, was like, I was talking on this with Will every single time this popped up in a book. It was really, really getting under my skin. And you've fixed it.
Yeah.
But Kirk also has the same question. We got to know about the interceptor flying backwards. Now, okay, I assumed someone caught it too late, and you came up with a way to fix it down the line, because it was dry. Like, listen, I don't get hung up on a lot of things. There's two things in Green Lantern books that really like drive me nuts. It's when their characters are drawn without a ring.
Yeah.
Or when a Green Lantern, besides Jessica Cruz, their boots are white. Like those two things, it just drives me nuts. It's my little nitpick. But then when the interceptor started showing up, I'm like, I think it's flying backwards. And then like the next issue came, I'm like, that's definitely flying backwards.
Yeah.
And then it was like, oh boy, okay. Is there anybody at DC that's watched the animated series that can fix this?
Right.
We need to know the full story about the interceptor flying backwards. And
so I put the interceptor in the book.
Great. And, thanks, by the way.
I was thrilled. And so what happened was, I took for granted that people hadn't read Green Lantern the animated series or watched it. And I think Fernando drew it first. But the interceptor was introduced in the comics before, like much earlier. And in those comics, it was flying backwards.
Yep.
And so Fernando rightly took that reference and had it flying that way. So at that point, I was like, it's much easier for me to rewrite dialogue and stuff than it is for an artist to redraw an entire thing. And I don't know if it's the TV in me or what, but then it was like, oh, this will be a hilarious joke, because I was immediately like, no, that's fine. Keep doing that. But there's going to be a moment where I want to turn it, you know, and already I was like, I could see Aya saying like, why are you flying this backwards? And I thought, oh, that'll be hilarious just for people that care, because it's only for people that watch the show. Like, it's only, and the fact that it's only for the show. So we have a bunch of episodes, and I was just laughing. I was just giggling to myself because I knew. And then when I finally said, okay, you have to change the trajectory, I was like, here's a video glyph. Like, the saucer part has to go first. And it was so funny. Because you guys weren't the only ones. Like, people were, but I knew it was just like, by the time the art, it was like, oh no, you rightly did it just like it is in DC continuity, but that's not the way it's supposed to be done, darn it. I just thought, oh, I'll hang a lantern on it and have Aya, which it totally makes sense that Aya's like, why are you doing this backwards? Which is so funny to me. And to have Superboy and Kyle be like, wasn't Hal driving it this way? Like,
that's the thing. That's
Yeah.
the thing. Kilowog and Hal never showed up on the ship during that
Yeah.
whole mission.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, I think it was when you finally introduced Aya, which I want to get to,
Yeah.
and it was in Green Lantern 24.
Yeah.
I told Will on the show, I said, please, in the next issue, have her ask why the ship is flying backwards, and you did it. And I was so happy, not just because I guessed it right, but I was just like, I'm a fan of the show so much that I was just like, it was like,
no,
this happened.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Razor and Aya. Like,
Sure.
was this something you had to pitch to DC? Was it pretty? Were they pretty cool with bringing them in?
I pitched. It's like sometimes it's just like everybody's a big fan of the show, so that's an easy lift. And there's just a little bit of like sometimes there's questioning legally how that's separate or how the character is separate. Luckily, they had done a Green Lantern the Animated Series comic, so I think that that was like okay-ish.
Have you read that comic at all?
I never have.
Honestly. Okay, so I actually jotted this down in my notes because I have seen it, or I read the whole run, and it's fine.
Yeah,
it's fine. Art Baltazar and Dario Brizuela, did the main run, which is fine. It's lighter fare for kids and stuff.
Kid stuff, yeah.
Issue 4 and 8, written by Ivan Cohen and art by Luciano Vecchio.
Okay.
Completely different art style.
Yeah.
Looks like the character models look just like the animated series.
Oh, really?
And the characters read much more like the animated series than the rest of the run. So if you get a chance, you can even just look at the colors or the covers, and you'll see that 4 and 8, for some reason, just those two issues,
that's interesting.
Have a completely different look and feel than the rest of the run.
That's interesting.
So if anything, I highly recommend checking out those two issues just to get more Green Lantern animated series stuff under your belt. But you were saying like that helped get the characters into the comics.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, Razor's got to go in early, and then we'll build up to Aya, and then we'll have them almost say something, and then everything will go wrong, because that's their plight right now. And it's a weird thing because there's a lot of people that haven't seen Green Lantern the Animated Series that could care less that Razor's in this thing, but Razor showing up, it could have been any. To me, it could have been any. I want to put Razor in there, but it could have been another alien, Green Lantern or somebody tangential to Green Lantern. But I wanted Razor, and I wanted to bring him in, and then to build up to Aya. And it was also like that was the moment we started doing backups in Green Lantern, and we started seeing where the other Earth Lanterns are. And remember, in Jeff Thorne's run, a lot of the Corps had been decimated to a degree, and United Planets had definitely done something where they had gotten rid of the kind of loyalists, and so there's all the United Planet Lanterns. So there's very few Green Lanterns left. So we had all the favorites of everybody in our universe. I get hit with criticism. Why don't you have more aliens? It's like, well, right now there's so many Earth Lanterns. We're trying to service those fans of those lanterns, and I want to make sure that they all get that. But we're bringing in more and more alien lanterns as they go on, whether it's Narf or whoever,
Narf, are you a fan of Thundercats by chance?
Oh, big time. Huge. So Snarf is always on the back of my brain. And the Narf thing was funny because Guy Gardner basically tells him, like, shut up. Like, at any point, Narf probably could have hulked out and handled the situation, but Guy's like, be quiet. Like, that kind of Indiana Jones, like, I got
it's like not talking during the record.
Yeah. Anyways, so we started introducing little things here and there, but the Corps is still small. It's still growing. They're still trying to figure out. Vexar Rue in the first GL Corps was one of the first ones. They just kind of gave her a ring because she was able to kind of handle her fractured spectrum stuff. And it's now Razor's in there and Aya's in there, and drawn by Zermanico. Aya's unbelievable. Really, really great. And I hope that we can use them some more. And I hope that, they live on in the universe.
I was listening to you, but also scoping the back of your shelf, which I think Kirk said earlier that he was curious to get a tour of the shelves. I just want to bring up one thing that I just noticed now because it caught my eye is you have the McDonald's Happy Meal Green
Yes.
Lantern
Oh,
toys
yeah.
up there.
Are you
I have
kidding
those.
me?
Yeah, I have those too. It's the only place you can get a Razor figure, right?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that was one of the reasons the Green Lantern, the animated series, or the Green Lantern movie came out around the time Green Lantern animated
Right.
series. And because that movie had done so poorly, nobody wanted to do toys. They're like,
Right.
no, we have all these Green Lantern toys. They're in a
The
landfill
bargain
somewhere.
bins,
They're
yeah.
like, no, it's different. And it's like, no. So they kind of
Yeah.
crashed out. So yeah, just
I
a real
heard
quick-
Giancarlo Volpe said that they made a prototype
Yeah,
interceptor
they did.
toy. Have you seen it?
I try and remember it in the back of my head. It scratches something like I saw something, but I don't remember it so many years ago.
He's got to have a picture of it.
He's got to. So I've got my Super Sons poster from the movie I did. These are all like projects. I usually get tchotchkes from projects. I have the Green Lantern animated series, Justice League Action, Lego Flash. I got a Batman thing. Alan Burnett, who worked on Batman the animated series, it's one of our mentor, friend of mine. I've got Soul of the Dragon, which is another movie I did with Bruce Timm. I got my old Superpowers Hall of Justice, which was to me the ultimate thing. The Superpowers Batmobile, a bunch of little things, movies and books and.
The last DVD purchase I've ever made, because we're in a small apartment, so I don't really have physical media much anymore except my records. But I think the last DVD I purchased was a copy of Lego, the Lego Aquaman Rage of Atlantis that you wrote.
Yeah.
But the reason I got it is because it came with a Jessica
Cruz
minifig.
Yeah.
And it's like a nice $10 DVD, and I'm like, totally worth it. Totally.
I
still haven't watched it. I haven't watched it.
How dare you?
I haven't watched it. Listen, I had my eye on the prize. It was a Jessica Cruz minifig.
I did I did like 5 or 6 of those movies or whatever, and they're so fun. They're so silly, and they're really great. Like, they were kid-centric, versions of Batman. They're not like the Lego Batman movie. They're not as sarcastic or maybe dark, but they're really kid-friendly, but they're a lot of fun. They really are. I did a Lego Flash with Jim, and then I did Lego Aquaman, Lego Shazam, a Lego Batman, and I think one other. I don't remember. They're all right behind me.
Yeah.
But and then a couple Lego DC superhero girls. But they're really fun. It was a way for me, and that was how I got in with Lego. And then since then I've done a bunch of shows for Legos, and they've sent me all around the world, and it's been great.
Yeah, you've done the DC superhero girls, which has Jessica Cruz in it.
Yes.
Is there a Lantern that you like writing for
Guy Gardner,
most?
100%. I grew up with the Justice League International, and I like the jerk guy. And so the version of Guy, if you remember the backup, I remember just like begging Kevin McGuire to do it, where the United Planets say, "Hey, Lantern Gardner, we have a task for you," and he's like, "I'm not doing what you want me to do. We want you to go find Lobo," and he's like, "That's a great idea," and like that type of that backup with Guy Gardner, where he's kind of smarmy. He's a bit of a jerk, but he's as a heart of gold is like my favorite. I really like Guy. Even though it's kind of fashionable now to like Guy because of the Superman movie.
It's crazy, right?
Yeah.
What'd you think?
I love Nathan Fillion, so he can do that wrong. I mean, I'm a Firefly guy, so that was like, but him as kind of a jerk is, it's funny. It's like in some ways you're like, oh, I think he's too old or whatever, but I don't know exactly what this universe is going to shape out like.
Yeah. Zekrom has a question that I kind of want to bounce off of. If you were to do a Jessica Cruz solo series, what new avenues would you explore with the character? And then,
so I think with Jessica, one of the reasons I made her kind of the leader of the Lanterns, which seems very counterintuitive in a lot of ways, is that I think her growth is pretty amazing as a Lantern in terms of anxiety and depression, all this stuff. And so to put her in kind of a interesting leadership spot is, I think that's a really cool change right now. Whether or not she stays there, I don't know. It really depends on the formation of like how the Corps continues. But at the time I thought, oh, I'll do Joe. Like Joe was the first answer off the shelf, the first thing off the shelf. And I thought, no, what if we did Jessica? What would that mean?
Mhm.
And what would that mean for her as a character? Again, when we have all these characters, it's like I have so many stories I want to tell with each individual and get granular, but we just don't have time.
Well, that's the thing.
You know?
So I have a question about Carol. You've been building up Carol. I've loved what you've been doing with her and her Star Sapphire powers. Like, are there any plans to kind of like get a mini series with her? It feels like she's heading somewhere.
Right. I'm trying. I think the goal with her has always been, when Mark was talking about Justice League Unlimited and I got a call about what lanterns can they use, and I said, well, why don't we do Carol instead, because I think that would be interesting. And the way that Carol, you know, when she's a queen of the Zamorans, she's much more capable. I've tried to explain that a little bit by that being the influence of the Predator, and maybe that worked, maybe it didn't work, but I think her as somebody that can use her powers is fine. Like, I think she can do that. I think it's a different concept as her as a superhero. And so building her up as a superhero and as somebody that is known outside of Hal Jordan is the goal, right? I don't want people to be like, oh, it's Carol Ferris, Star Sapphire, you know, Hal Jordan's girlfriend. I want her to be her own hero. Like, I think like when you say Power Girl and Black Canary, I think you can say Star Sapphire in a way. And I think in the Green Lantern community, I think there is that. I just think outside of that, I don't think people recognize her as that type of character. So I think she's really interesting. I think we built her up in a way, both in Mark's book and our book, that she is, you know, she is a hero. She's kind of figured out and kind of had a little more empathy for Hal in the superhero business. But I think there's all the sorts of other information, like what's going on with their business, what's going on with all sorts of other stuff. Why does she not have a lantern? Why did they not build a new lantern? Why is she able to operate? There's a lot of those questions in my head that I hope that I get the chance to do. So we'll see if they bite. DC, sometimes I pitch things and they go, yes. And most of the time they say no. So,
as we wind down, I'm going to get into some of the questions in the chat. Hunter asks me specifically what my thoughts are on James Gunn's Superman and Guy Gardner and Aaron Pierre as Jon Stewart and Kyle Chandler as Hal Jordan. Listen, it's been a drought for Green Lantern in live action. And
now it's a deluge.
For like 13 years.
Yeah.
No, like 14 years now. And I thought Superman was a joy. Just being able to see those characters on screen again made me happy. I've been watching reaction videos to people watching it for the first time, and it gets me excited all over again.
Oh, that's cool.
I think Aaron Pierre, I'm excited. I don't know if you've seen anything. Like, do you get privy to any sort of like Lantern stuff? You don't have to say what.
No, I mean, like, I'm friendly with Tom King, and so I'll get a little bit, but I don't like pry. I don't know anything really. I love Rebel Ridge, so I think he looks awesome as Jon Stewart. I really love Kyle Chandler, even though in my head I'm like, oh, that's a little older, but gosh, Kyle Chandler, I was a Friday Night Lights guy, like beyond comprehension. So the one picture when they posted them, I was like, that looks pretty good.
Yeah.
But I reserve my judgment for, you know, when the show comes out, and then I'll probably not say anything anyways, because it always gets me in trouble. But yeah, I mean, I don't know anything. I do think Nathan, I love Nathan. I wasn't sold, but then I remember when they showed the trailer for Superman and he did the, you know, with his hands and things, and the middle finger. And my girls, they were giggling so much during that scene, and that was kind of the Guy in my head. I always thought Guy was kind of like Dennis Leary circa 1998, but
perfect.
You know, or now I would have put like Bill Burr or somebody, but like Nathan did a great job as a pompous a-hole, you know, that was great.
Like, is that how you write these characters? You have someone in mind and like kind of
sometimes, yeah. Hal to me was Kevin Costner and Bull Durham. There was this kind of like arrogance, but you know, this heart of gold and that grin that melts your heart, you know, and I
always thought like Dennis Quaid in Inner Space.
Yeah, totally.
Like,
Oh
yeah,
yeah, Dennis Quaid for sure is, that kind of era. Yeah,
yeah,
for sure.
yeah. Um, uh, Chad says, credit to Jeremy. He's the first writer to make me give a you know what about Hal and Carol's relationship.
Well, thank you. I
Yeah,
appreciate that.
yeah. I mean, I've been enjoying it. I was a little bit dubious at the start, which was how Hal sort of wedged himself in between Nathan and Carol. It
Hey,
was kind of,
she wasn't
yeah,
married, and he's old
uh,
school, right? Like, I mean, it's kind of what
yeah.
it's a tale as old as time, man. I mean,
It's
it's
Silver
so
Age
funny
Hal
that
stuff.
people get kind of worked up about that, but I'm like, they're not married, and Hal has this long history with her, and so that's part of the growth of Hal, though. It's like he thinks he can just roll into town and pick up where he left off, but she's kind of moved on, and then there's that realization, right? Like, I can't do this, and that's like a weird growth moment for Hal, because I don't think the real thing comes when Hal and Barry have a conversation, and all the legacy characters have kind of taken the forefront. All the kids, the sidekicks, have become, heroes now, and they've got kids and they've got families, and Hal and Barry are like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
And there's that real like inner look of Hal going like, I gotta move on and let her be happy and make her own decisions. And he does. And then she makes her own decision. Poor Nate.
Uh,
Poor Nate at the
yeah.
Hall of Krypton, or
Yeah.
the wedding chapel of Krypton.
Uh, Dave Brown goes back to we're talking about like the lawyers. Is
Yeah.
there anything that they like squashed? Is there anything where you were like, I want to do this, but they're just like the interceptor? You said you needed to make
It
sure that it
wasn't
was clear
lawyers,
to
but
do
I
it.
get squashed quite a bit on
Is it
things.
because characters are being used in other books?
Sometimes, like the Floronic Man was because there's a character using it. But I'll give you an example. When Hal goes to hell with Zoriel and this Phantom Stranger, and like he's gonna fight the Spectre. Originally, I had Dr. Light was going to be the one that he has to get out of hell,
Okay.
and because that was going to be a key component of lighting the lanterns.
Yeah.
And from on high, it was like, no, we don't want to use that character. Blah, blah, blah. I was like, yeah, that feeling of like, oh, he's a horrible human. That's why he's in hell.
Right.
Like, I was like, that's why that's why we should all feel that, and
What about sticking Nort down there?
so that came out of that. Basically, it was like, no, you can't do it. I was like, but you guys, this would be a great thing, blah, blah, blah. You make this really great bad guy will come back, and they're like, no. And I go, fine, I'm putting Nort in hell then. And they were like, fine. And I was like, oh. And then it made me laugh, because then I was writing, Nort being like, yeah, I don't even know how I got here. And then it made me the giggling between Hal and him going like, oh, you thought it was this planet because of the horns? Like, yeah, and it was just so Nort, that kind of absent-minded Lantern obviously finds himself in hell, and he doesn't know he's in hell. He thinks he's patrolling.
Yeah. Yeah. Christian just started reading GL, like I think last week, based on our recommendation. Watching Hal scare off bad guys with ghost constructs was a joy.
Yeah.
Do you work with Germanico or Fernando, or is it VK Marion?
I usually write everything out, what constructs, and I always give them leeway if they want to change something. But I'm always trying to figure out. It's hard. Keep coming up with interesting constructs that nobody's done is like a difficult task. And that was one of my first ones. I was like, I don't think he's done this, and that was fun. I wrote that in there. And then with like Germanico, I said, what do you want? What do you want to draw? And he had said at one point, I want to do some mechs. I'm like, you're going to get some mechs. And he's like, I want some jets. I'm like, you're going to get some jets. Like, I was like, whatever you want, because the way I look at it.
Carol Ferris making jets brought so much joy to me, because I don't think I've seen that before.
All I know is that I am one of the luckiest blokes to work with these these artists and these pencilers and these colorists and inkers, because Germanico is I've basically been living in dread since I've worked with him, because he did Flashpoint Beyond, and I thought for sure somebody would be like, well, we got to put him on a Batman book. And I was like, oh, every day I'm just like, they're going to steal him, and Fernando, we've worked on and off together since the beginning. He basically drew the first comic I ever did, and that guy is the best, and they just do such a great job. So even if my scripting is terrible, it looks great. So I'm so lucky. I'm so lucky to have kind of this neat collaboration with them. And I very much have a open door policy of, like, if they want to do something, if they want, like, the entrance to where the main power battery was on Earth was Zermanico's hometown, and okay. And I really love that. I really want to, it's a visual medium at the end of the day, and I really want to make sure my artists feel like collaborators and that they get to do what they want to do. Because if they're excited about drawing it, it's going to come through, I will tell you, though, the minute we were keeping Hal on Earth, and it was really hard to keep him on Earth. And then the minute we go to space, I remember the first page I got back from Zermanico, and I was just like, oh, I'm an idiot. We should have been in space from day one. Like, his art's so good.
Yeah.
Like, what am I doing on Earth? This is stupid.
Speaking of inkers, Madalena has asked, when you began your career as an inker, what was your favorite character draw or work on?
I never was an inker.
I didn't think so. But I was like, oh, maybe they know something. I'm not an expert
at no artistic
anything.
Ability whatsoever.
Yeah. From Vactor, question for Jeremy. I guess you don't want to ask me this as well. If you yourself were a character living in the DC universe, which Lantern Corps do you think you would choose? Yeah,
100% blue. Mainly because I'm a very naturally hopeful person.
Yeah, I'm wearing my blue ring.
I remember, like, when COVID started, I was like, 2 weeks. I'm that type of guy. I would be blue, or if there was a lantern for worry, which maybe there will be at some point. I worry a lot too.
Yeah. How's that, like, coming up with a whole different spectrum?
The fractured stuff.
Yeah,
it's fun. It's hard because Jeff and those guys really they expanded that universe so
it's crazy
big,
that nobody thought of it before.
Right. And so now you're like, okay, well, what can I do here? And I like the fracture spec. I like some of these characters, and I would love to have more time to deal with some, and like Envy and all those other things. And who knows what the future will
hold. The last question comes from Will over at Green Lanterns Podcast. Can Jeremy explain why he hasn't added me as a Blue Lantern yet? I don't know what that means.
I don't know. I mean, pay to play, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get DC to do something, but I can't. Something along those lines, not with him, but it is. I see one. It's like, what does it say? Good job, fixed. Oh, the Silver Scarab. Yeah. All that stuff. Listen, I'm a Blue Beetle nut, so bringing Dan Garrett back, that was such an interesting thing too, because some of the stuff my editor ends up asking me to do and then completely reneges on it, like, an issue in, and I'm like, well, you can't. Now I'm down the road, like, you can't say no or whatever. And Dan Garrett coming back was a big fight, because I wanted Dan Garrett to come back because I was trying to tie together the Reach mythology with Jaime Reyes' Scarab, which is Dan Garrett's Scarab, and the fact that when Silver Scarab, who's the Hector, like the Hawk's son, later on, was modeled off of Dan Garrett's costume, and I thought, oh, this is a great way to tie it all together in one little thing with nth metal, but Superboy and Kyle, and then obviously Odyssey. Odyssey was supposed to be Wonder Girl, but they said I couldn't use her at the last second. And I was like, are you kidding me? I did this whole like thirst trap splash page with Connor Kent. That only makes sense if Wonder Girl's there because they had a prior relationship. And then it was like, nope. And I'm like, crap. So then, my daughter helped me come up with Odyssey. And I was like, oh, she's pretty rad. And then that fell into my whole story with Gold Beetle. What's going on in my brain. So sorry.
I'm going to do 2 more quick questions, and because I think they're fairly fun and should be easy. Mark asks, what's something with the GL that you'd like to see on the big screen that hasn't been adapted from the comics yet?
That's a good question.
I mean, we've only gotten one Green Lantern movie on the big screen.
I know.
So maybe
And
like Sinestro Corps War would be great. Blackest Night would be great.
yeah,
I think you need to take some
you
time.
can build to the Blackest Night. I think Sinestro Corps would be great. You know, even in the first one, I really wanted to see like kind of a Hal Jordan boot camp type thing. Gosh, that's really tough.
Like Heart Traveling Heroes might be fun.
That would be fun. I do think
like a modern version can exist. I think
it's hard, right? Because you're sitting there going like when you do Superman, you got to do Lex Luthor, but it's like I really want to see Brainiac at this point. I want to see something different. Right. So like even the Sinestro of it, it's like I kind of would want to see Sinestro, but I think they're, you know, they try to do Hector Hammond, but Sinestro's there. I do think the Sinestro stuff could have been done. I think that you could do that where Sinestro is a Lantern, but then, you know, it's basically training day, right? Like that's what you want to do.
Yeah, Green Lantern First Flight did it pretty well.
Right. Where they're there, and then he kind of, you know, he turns, and just have somebody who's your mentor that you look up to turn, and you have to fight him is a great story, you know.
Yeah. This one last question should be easy, and I don't even know if this is correct information, but besides Hal, what's your favorite Earth Lantern? I don't know if Hal is your favorite.
No. Hal's not my favorite. Guy is my favorite. Hal's great, but Guy is my guy, you know.
Yeah.
I also have an affection for Kyle, and Kyle is in the Green Lantern book is going to play a much bigger role as we go forward. So that'll be interesting.
And then I have one more thing.
Okay, let me see it.
I promised you this toy that I went and grabbed. So everybody, this is not Green Lantern related. My apologies, but I am a massive fan, and you're gonna have to sell me on this. Well, you don't have to sell me on this book because I read it's a book you're working on, and I've read the what do you call it, the sample on Amazon. But I'm a massive fan of the Flash Gordon serial starring Buster Crabbe.
Yes.
I don't think you have this.
No, not at all.
Go Hero.
That's awesome.
That is
awesome.
I absolutely love the serial. I read some Alex Raymond stuff, which is basically the serial.
Yeah,
it's perfectly adapted. And then like back maybe like 15 years ago, maybe a little bit longer, I don't know. There was a Flash Gordon Zeitgeist book which I enjoyed, and there was another one like a more of a modern take Flash Gordon.
But you haven't read the version I'm writing.
So I haven't read the version you're writing. I've read the sample.
Shame.
But I think this is a perfect opportunity for you to sell not only me but all the Green Lantern fans who may not be familiar with Flash Gordon. Sell us on the book.
Listen, it's one of the oldest superheroes essentially made, and it's a pulp sci-fi hero. It is funny because when they asked me to do it, they asked me to have this artist that was very kind of experimental, and I said, no, can we have somebody like Will Conrad or whatever? And they're like, well, there's superhero artists. I'm like, yeah, he's a superhero. Like,
right.
Let's not get it mixed up. It is.
Were you like a fan? Were you like a fan of Flash Gordon?
I'm a big fan of pulp sci-fi. I liked Buck Rogers probably a little more. I'm a huge John Carter of Mars fan. I'm a huge Edgar Rice Burroughs fan, and that's kind of the tone. Right. It is not a reboot. It is not an origin story. It is like, what if the stories are continuing? And it is the square-jawed hero that doesn't have the heavy burden of continuity that I have to deal with. And it's just super fun, weird sci-fi. I mean, it is literally smack, pow, bang, you know, and the first issue. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
Can I just say just for a second, Planet 628 dropped in and said the reason I picked up GL is because Jeremy was writing Flash Gordon.
Yes.
But the Ace Hunter Megaforce
avatar. Right? I just saw that too. That's so rad. You're my people. Yeah. It is just a fun. If you read the first issue, it throws you right into, you know, Flash versus, you know, Ming, and then it has a very surprise ending, and then you're off to the races. And,
okay, I'm gonna read it.
And Will Conrad's art's great. It's really
looks great.
Yeah,
it really looks great. I before I sat down with you, I said I gotta check out this Flash.
You gotta check it out, man.
Because I love the serials. Like I watch the serials a lot. The Buster Crab. Buster Crab also played Buck Rogers in those serials.
Right. And it's, by the way, it's a very much a serial it's book. It is cliffhangers and reveals and fun, but it's not like, oh no. The great thing for me is like, if you don't know anything about Flash Gordon, you're still going to be okay.
Right.
You know?
Right. Yeah.
Get on it.
I think we're good. I want to thank everybody in the chat. I want to thank you for taking the time. I didn't want to hold you too long because I think I gave enough time for us to grab our dinners and then sit down for Peacemaker episode 2. If there is any Green Lantern cameo, I'll have an episode. I'll be on live tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Pacific time. If not, then there's no show. So that's up to the producers. That's how this season's going to go because I only cover Green Lantern stuff. I don't that's it. I know there's some other Green Lantern channels that will like dip their toes into like Fantastic Four reviews and stuff, which I love Fantastic Four. I thought it was great. Yeah. So keep an eye out for tomorrow. Jeremy, I'm going to ask you one more question. I don't have an episode scheduled for next week. I'm either going to do a spotlight on Showcase 22 or check out Justice League Red, which features Simon Baz.
Oh, cool.
Do you want to weigh in on that? What you think I should be doing next week? Okay. Okay.
I think check out Justice League Red. I haven't read it yet, but Paul had mentioned it to me and I was like, "Ooh, I got to check it out." So it sounds kind of fun.
I've heard good things.
Okay, good.
I've heard good things. So I might do that. It depends. It depends. Right. We'll see where we're at next week. Everybody hit the bell icons to be notified when that's going to happen and what it'll be. Speaking of leaving it on a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Happy birthday to Sandra.
Happy birthday, Sandra.
And again, thank you so much for joining me. Everybody, thanks for joining me in the chat. And I'll see you here next week. Thanks for joining me. Goodbye, everybody. As always, beware my podcast. It's Lanterns Live. Bye.